Chapter 3. A Big Decision. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. James 1:5. As the weeks passed, Millie was grateful for her friends' company in the afternoons as they sewed. Their conversation almost took the sting out of leaving Mr. Martin's class. Millie had begun to think, under Mr. Martin's tutelage, that she might want to be a teacher herself one day. His classroom was botanical and zoological wonder, with specimens and samples of all kinds. When Bee complained that girls should not be expected to learn mathematics, history, Latin, and Greek as the boys were, Mr. Martin had removed his spectacles, polished them carefully, then perched them once again on his beak-like nose. "I suppose you adhere to the wisdom of young ladies, studying only music, drawing, embroidery, and French, Miss Hartley?" "Why, yes," Bee answered, "although truthfully I would rather dispense with the French altogether." Mr. Martin shook his bald head, then picked up the flower they had been sketching. "The lily is a work of art, don't you agree?" "Of course," Bee said. "It's beautiful." "And beautifully and thoughtfully made. Do you realize that each and every part of this flower has a purpose?" "Yes," Bee agreed. "We have been studying the lily." "You are beautifully and thoughtfully made also," Mr. Martin said, "and every part of you has a purpose. As God saw fit to give you a good brain, I expect you to use it. There is room in that lovely head for embroidery and mathematics, Miss Hartley." Camilla thrived in the classroom setting, and after school each day, as the girls sewed, she described the lessons to Millie, poring over her notes until Bee and Annabeth begged her to stop. The conversations in company were very dear to Millie, since she wanted to spend every minute possible with her friends. But the long hours beside Mama and Aunt Wealthy while they were alone proved more useful in getting the work done. The Keith house began to look less and less like home as trunks were packed and belongings sorted into those that would travel with the family and those that would be shipped ahead. Wagons were loaded and sent away, leaving the house with empty corners and echoes in the hall. "Have you any cord, Marcia?" asked Aunt Wealthy one morning while they worked together in the sewing room. "Yes," Marcia answered, turning to her work-basket. "Why, what has become of it? I had 2 or 3 pieces here. And that paper of needles has disappeared. Millie, did you use them?" "The children were here half an hour ago," Millie said. "I remember seeing Donald looking into your basket." "Run out and see what they have done with that cord," Marcia said. "And after the needles, too. We don't want them turning up in the wrong place." Millie hesitated in the empty hall, listening for sounds to tell her where the children were. Little voices were prattling in the garden near at hand. Stepping to the door, she saw Cyril and Dawn seated on the grass, busy with a kite Rupert had made for them. "What are you doing?" she asked, going near. "Making a longer tail." "Where did you get that piece of string?" The only answer was a guilty look on the 2 grubby faces. "Oh, I know. You took it from Mama's work basket, and now Aunt Wealthy needs it, but you've spoiled it entirely. Don't take things without leave. Did you take the paper of needles, too?" "No, we didn't," Dawn said. "You always think we were the ones causing trouble." "So you didn't see the paper of needles?" "We saw it," said Dawn, "but Fan took it." "Yeah, she was bothering us," added Cyril. "I will not pinch, no matter how much they deserve it," Millie said to herself. She shoved her hands in her pockets and went in search of her little sister. She found Fan sitting in her little garden, the empty needle paper lying near. Fan was sitting cross-legged, her chin resting on her fist, staring at the ground. "Fan," said Millie as she picked the paper up, "what have you done with the needles?" "Sewed them in the ground," said Fan, smoothing the dirt with her little rake. "When they grow into baby porcupines, we'll have lots of needles. I have to watch careful, or the porcupines will get away." "Porcupines," Millie corrected her. "Will you help me pluck them, Millie?" Fan asked, holding up her chubby hands. "They'll prick me." "No, they won't. Needles do not grow into porcupines. Who told you that story, silly little puss?" "Never mind, I can guess. Show me where you put them." "I put them in the ground, round and round." Millie picked up a stick and poked about in the fresh earth for a minute or 2. "This is as hopeless as looking for needles in a haystack," she said. "Come on, I'm sure you can play with Zilla. She is making a dress for her doll." She went back into the house with the report of the hapless fate of the missing needles, but the boys were there before her. They'd washed their faces and their hands up to the wrists and slicked down their hair. Millie was sure she could smell just a hint of rosewater. "We didn't think, Mama," pleaded Donald, penitently holding out the ruined cord. "We're very sorry." "Very, very sorry," Cyril said earnestly. Marcia leaned over and gave him a kiss. "My boys must learn to think, and they must not take Mother's things without asking. Now run along and try to be good children." "Mother, I do think you're being a little too easy with them," Millie said with frustration. "They've been telling Fan terrible tales to keep her out of their way, and they do know better than to take your cord." "Perhaps," Marcia said, "but if I make a mistake, it is far better to do so on the side of mercy than of severity." And they did apologize. "That's true," Aunt Wealthy said. "What have they told Fan this time?" she asked. Millie related the story of Fan's baby porcupines, and she couldn't help laughing along with her mother and aunt. "We can't do without needles, I'm afraid," said Marcia when Millie was finished. "Will you run to the store and get a new paper, Millie?" Millie put on her bonnet. She felt almost guilty escaping into the beautiful day. If it hadn't been for the fact that she would miss her afternoon reading, she would have been perfectly happy. News had traveled, and everyone in town knew that the Keiths were moving. People greeted Millie as she walked along the streets and asked her about her family and their preparations. Millie gave each an answer and a smile. As she turned a corner onto Main Street, she almost ran into Frank Osborne, the boy who sat in front of her in class. "Millie, what a surprise!" he said, jumping aside. He recovered his balance and took her hand in a friendly greeting. Millie felt her cheeks grow warm. Frank was the smartest boy in school, and a year ahead of Millie. She greatly enjoyed talking about books and history with him. Bea, Camilla, and Annabeth had started to tease her about the amount of time Frank spent sitting under the trees in the schoolyard reading with Millie. "The news you're moving has come as a great shock to the whole class," Frank said, dropping her hand. "Can it really be true? You are going to Indiana?" "Yes, to the land of the Hoosier, wild Indians and wolves," Millie said gaily. "Don't you envy me?" "I envy those that go with you," he answered. "And I wonder who will challenge me in the spelling bee now. You won't forget old friends, Miss Millie?" "No, no indeed, Frank," she said heartily. "I won't forget. But goodbye. I must purchase my supplies and hurry home." And with a nod and a smile she left him. Millie didn't look back, but she caught a reflection in the glass door of the shop as it swung open, a ghostly picture of Frank standing on the walk where she had left him, his hands in his pockets. Millie had just finished paying for the needles when a woman called her name. "Mildred Keith?" "Good morning, Mrs. Hall," Millie said politely. The Halls were the wealthiest family in town, good Christians, and always ready to help anyone in need. "I'm so glad I ran into you," Mrs. Hall said. "I have been meaning to speak to your mother, but I have been too busy to get by. Will you walk with me to my carriage?" "Of course," Millie said, taking Mrs. Hall's package and walking beside her. "Millie," the elderly lady said, "I have been speaking to your teacher, Mr. Martin. He has told me how much you value your education, and how sorry he is to lose you as a pupil. He thinks very highly of you, and of your possibilities, my dear. I've heard of the difficulties your father had. I have had some difficulties of my own lately. Dr. Brent has said that I must not strain my heart. I was thinking I could get a girl to stay with me, to help with the light lifting and accompanying me on walks." Millie's heart skipped a beat. "Perhaps it would be too great a sacrifice for your dear parents, but you could continue your education, and they would know you were in a good Christian home. What do you think?" I don't know what to think, Mrs. Hall. It's such a kind offer, but—" "Oh, I know the decision will be up to your parents," Mrs. Hall said with a smile. "I simply thought you might put in a good word for me." "Thank you, Mrs. Hall. I will speak to Mamma about it." Millie watched the carriage roll away. Stay in Lansdale? Was it possible? She started to walk toward home, but suddenly stopped. tucked the paper of needles into her sash, and ducked into the hedge beside the road. She ran until her breath was coming in gasps, up the hill to the old oak that grew on top. She pulled herself up until she was standing on the lowest branch, petticoats and all, and hugged the trunk of the tree. She hadn't climbed the oak since she was Zilla's age. Somehow the rough bark against her face was comforting. Lansdale stretched across the valley before her, lovely brick homes, tree-shaded streets, white church steeples pointing at the sky. Lansdale, where everyone knew her, where her friends lived, where she could finish her studies with Mr. Martin and then attend college. "Could this be your plan?" Millie prayed out loud. "Could you want me to stay after all? But what about Mama and Papa? I don't know what to do." Millie sighed. "I am willing to trust in you, but please, show me what I should do."